this is your packet for Make and Take number 5. I want to make sure to point out that there are some googly eyes in here. You want to make sure to leave those in there so we don't lose them. So in our packet, we have a scalloped shape and a thin strip of blue cardstock. We also have some pieces here of colored cardstock and a strip of white. We have a sticky sheet, a white card base. You have some shattered glass foil, and then also another piece of white cardstock. So everything else I'm putting off on the side, and we're going to start with the colored cardstock. We have here cherry pop, lollipop, candy corn, pineapple, Granny Smith, Cookie Monster, and jelly donut, and then a strip of white. So we will put that white sugar cube cardstock off on the side for just a moment. And we're going to start with our colored pieces of cardstock. So the first thing we want to do is get out our paper trimmer, and we want to cut a 1/2-inch strip off of each of these pieces of colored cardstock. So you can save the rest for scrap or a future project. We just want these 1/2-inch strips. So just using the ruler on the right hand side of my paper trimmer, I will cut those 1/2-inch strips out of each of the colors. Then we can bring in the white strip of cardstock, and we want to cut 1/8 of an inch off of this. So we will need at least 6 strips that are about 1/8 of an inch. This is what we are going to attach the foil to. And these are also going to be kind of as a spacing guide on our card panel. Once those are all cut, we're going to take that white piece of cardstock that was in your kit and our sticky sheet, remove the backing on one side, and then starting at one of the corners, line up your 2 edges. So the top and the side there, make sure it's straight, and then you can follow along the top of it to push down and then let it fall down and attach the rest, just kind of pressing as you go. Make sure there's no bubbles or anything. Then we can remove that second release paper, and this is going to give us a full panel of sticky sheet. So we want this whole thing to be sticky. Then we're going to take all of our strips and we're going to attach our strips to this sticky panel. So I laid out all of my colors, and starting with our cherry pop, we are going to line that up on the very left-hand side of the card front. So lining up that edge, I'm going to place that down, and there is going to be a little bit at the end of our card, that gap at the very bottom, and that's okay. Then after the cherry pop, we're going to take that 1/8 of an inch of sugar cube cardstock and butt that up right next to our cherry pop ink. You want to make sure that these are lined up perfectly as they are cut just perfect for this size card front. Then we can move on to lollipop. Same thing, make sure that's right up next to that strip of white cardstock. And we will repeat this process for all of the colors, just alternating between the colors and that white strip of cardstock. The white strip is what we are going to attach our foil to. And you could have left it empty, whereas not adding this thin white strip, but then it'd be really hard to get the spacing of it, and also it would be indented. So if you wanted to have a full flat front panel, this is the best way to do it, and you're getting perfect spacing with each one. I'll continue this process for the rest of the colors, just going in a rainbow order. And after I have everything attached, I will take this over to my paper trimmer, and we'll be able to cut off that bottom gap at the end of our card. After we trim off that bottom portion using our paper trimmer, this should leave us with a piece that is 5 1/4. So we'll trim off just that little bit of excess. And then we can turn our cardstock, and we are going to trim off 1/8 of an inch from each side. Now the reason we're doing it from each side is it's going to be even for each of those end colors. That way we don't have too much red or too much purple. It'll be even. So just flipping our cardstock, take that 1/8 of an inch off of each side. Then we're going to take 1/8 of an inch sticky tape, and we're going to run that down these white strips. This is what we are going to attach our foil to. So this is a very easy and quick way to add foil to your card fronts. Now I do like to have that hanging off of the edge a little bit. I just find that easier to apply the sticky tape. And after each time, I kind of go over it and burnish it with my fingers a little bit just to make sure that the sticky tape is really down on those white strips. After I have my sticky tape applied, I'm going to take some nonstick scissors and I'm going to trim off any excess of this sticky tape that's hanging over. You don't want any left hanging off the edge of your card because otherwise the foil will stick to it. So just make sure you have some really nice clean cuts. Then we can remove the backing from each of those strips from our sticky tape, and we are going to take this shattered glass foil and we want the pretty side up, so that just make sure when you're going to apply this, it's pretty side up. This is cut perfectly to fit the front of your card, and start at one end, and you'll be able to just kind of stick that down on one end and then let it just kind of fall over the rest of your card. The sticky tape, when it sticks, it's going to stick. And you can see I did have a beginning oops there where there was some foil missing. It really does stick. So just push that down really well. You can use a bone folder if you wanted to burnish that a little bit better, but I'm just using my fingertips to go over all of those lines of that sticky tape. And then I can work on removing this. So I started slowly by peeling one corner. Now up at the top, I noticed I was having trouble removing it. So I'm just going to kind of burnish it a little bit more. It was still a little sticky. So I'm going to move around the rest of my card and peel that up. So you can see here I'm going off to the left-hand side and working my way back to the right. And it all peeled off perfectly. And it left this gorgeous foiling in between all of our colors. And that shattered glass foil is just beautiful in person to see, all that shine. For our stamping now, I'm going to work on that scalloped circle piece that was in your bag. I'm using this little cloud image that was off of your stamp set. That was a combination stamp set. And I'm just using an acrylic block. With red rubber stamps, they give such amazing impressions that I feel very confident that I'll get this stamped correctly on the first time. So inking this up with the Oreo ink, I'm going to stamp this in the center of that scalloped circle. Now I'll be using Copic markers to color in my image. I know Taylor has it listed as a C1 marker and blending out with a colorless blender, and unfortunately my colorless blender is empty. So I'm taking the C1 and I will blend it out with a C0. So I'm adding flicks from the outside edge going in, not coloring in the entire image, and blending out with the C0 just to kind of soften that edge a little bit. So it's going to give it a little bit of dimension, but not make it look like a gray cloud. Then I'm just using some rainbow colors to color in the hearts and the bow at the top of the head, top of the cloud. I used Copic markers, but you really could use any coloring medium that you happen to have on hand. Now for the sentiment, we will be using that thin blue strip of cardstock that was in your Make and Take kit. This is that combination stamp I was referring to, and I'll be using one of the sentiments from here. I'm going to line this up onto an acrylic block and lining up the bottom of that sentiment with the grid line on the block. Then I'm going to ink this up with the Oreo ink and stamp that in the center of this blue strip of cardstock. Now in the home stretch of finishing up our card, we are going to take our rainbow card panel and we are going to just attach our sentiment strip with the Scotch tape runner, adding that to the back and then placing that towards the bottom of the card front. Then we can take foam squares or foam tape, add it to the back of our scalloped circle, remove the backing of that foam tape, and just place that directly above our sentiment. And then we can attach this panel to the white card base that was included in your kit. Now don't forget we had some cute googly eyes saved in our Make and Take package, so we are going to add those to the eyes of our cloud, and I'm just using this new berry glue that Tailored Expressions carries. And you can add those with an embellishment wand or a jewel picker, whatever is easiest for you. And then also in one of your previous Make and Takes, you have some of these new drip drops. So I like to kind of add these around my image first before I glue them down. That way I know where they're going to go. And then using the fine tip of the barely art precision glue, I'm going to add little dots of glue, pick that up with my embellishment wand, and add those drip drops around my image. And that will complete Make and Take number 5. Thanks so much for joining me. I hope you enjoyed it.